Okay. So if you're just joining us, people are already coming in. We're going to get started in a couple minutes here, just hanging out with Amy and Jay in advance, talking about creativity, as sort of an obvious topic for today. The poll is live. So again, if you're just joining us, please take the poll. We'd love to hear your thoughts. There's a lot of people with a lot of really interesting backgrounds, and I think it's going to be fascinating to hear from our attendees how they think about AI and creativity. So Amy, obviously Persado is in this business. How do you think about creativity? Like, what do you guys, do you have a definition of creativity internally that you use when you think about this stuff?
Well, we think about creativity as, in large part, the process of solving problems for real people, and then, bringing, in our case, the right language to get someone to act or learn or take an action of any kind. So, what's really exciting about this conversation and about creativity in general is that people, bring such the art of creativity and our instinct and our experience to the process. And now machines and the power of AI is helping us accelerate how we expand our creativity. So I think the definition, certainly in my almost 3 decades of doing marketing, has evolved.
And if you're just joining us again, we're just kind of hanging out pre-webinar here, talking with Amy and Jay. The poll is live, so please take that if you're joining in. Interesting results. We're going to share the results a few slides into the presentation, so you get to see what the answers are. But I will say right now, the majority think AI can be creative on its own, which is a fascinating response. I have, Jay and Amy, have either of you watched AlphaGo, that documentary with DeepMind and the building of AlphaGo? Oh my gosh.
I haven't yet. No, okay. I think we were talking about it. But
yeah, anytime this topic comes up, there's this infamous move in AlphaGo where the machine does something no human would have ever done. So the commentators, who are like the top Go players in the world, were like, whoa, I think it just like went haywire. Like no human would ever do what it just did. And in the documentary, the DeepMind team basically presents this idea like, well, isn't that creativity? Like, isn't the fact that the machine thought to do something no human would have ever done being creative? And so you have these people who are in the camp of, well, absolutely. And then you have the people in the camp of, well, no, it's just better math than any human's capable of doing. Like, it just crunched more numbers. And so that's why I'm always fascinated by this conversation of what is creativity and where is the line drawn between the machine creating something or just helping. And so again, if you're just joining us, the poll question is live of, can the machine actually be creative, or is it really just doing math and it's enhancing creativity on the other end? And so Jay and Amy are kind of hanging out with us pre-webinar here. We'll get started. It's just noon now, Eastern time, that is, top of the hour. So we'll get 1 more minute. People are still rolling in. So take our poll question if you're live. So Jay, I don't want to, I mean, we only have a minute here, so I don't want to go to it, but do you have a definition of creativity you think about? I mean, in the areas you cover for Forrester, do you think about what it is as you're doing it?
Yeah, we think of creativity as it's a way of thinking and working that helps elevate problem solving and helps elevate the capacity to problem solve individually and collectively. And your example, the documentary example, is very interesting. I think it illustrates the ability for technology and the machine to help people be creative.
Yeah.
Faster isn't creative. More accurate isn't necessarily creative, but seeing around corners and being able to do things that are as yet previously thought of, I think that starts to push into the realm of creativity. But it still takes the human element to appreciate and understand the significance of that, and
100%.
Yeah.
And paired together, it becomes more effective and powerful.
Yeah, the interesting, not to like ruin the end of AlphaGo, but like this happened in 2016, so I'm not ruining the end of like what happens in but he played the world champion. AlphaGo plays the world champion, Lee Sedol, and he crushes him. And so the interesting thing though is, was the machine creative? We don't know. But Lisa Dahl said, it made me a better player. Like it taught me things I never would have thought to do. So Lisa Dahl, the human's creativity went to an entire new level because the machine enhanced what Lisa Dahl was capable of. And it's just like, you would love it. Like I mean, it would really put a grip to it. So, okay. So I know we're 2 minutes after. I'm going to go ahead and we'll kind of get started on the webinar. Thank you, everybody who's still joining us. We were just kind of riffing off on creativity before we got started here. I'm going to go ahead and leave the poll live for a couple minutes as I'm kind of doing a few intros. But again, welcome. This is AI and Creativity, how AI transforms and personalizes brand communications. What we're setting out to do today, I always like to start off an event with like, what are we here for? So what we're here to do today is answer these questions, or at least pose these questions and give some insights from our perspective. So how can AI inspire the creative process, transform messaging, and drive business outcomes? So this is what we're here to talk about. We have nearly 800 people registered for this event. So I think it's safe to say it's timely, it's highly relevant in the marketing industry, and it's a critical conversation to be having. So thank you for being here. I am your host, Paul Raitzer. I'm the founder and CEO of Marketing AI Institute. I'll tell you a minute a few things about Marketing Institute if you're not familiar. First, a few housekeeping items. So if you need help at any point during the webinar, go ahead and use the raise your hand, and our team will DM you and give you whatever technical support you might need. Feel free to post questions in the Q&A section at any time. We're going to be curating those we'll be monitoring them. We're going to leave a bunch of time at the end to answer questions and go through them. But if you think of something in the moment, go ahead and put it in the Q&A panel, and our team will be watching those and curating them for the end. The chat is also open to interact with our team and fellow attendees. So if you have any thoughts or ideas or questions, don't be shy. Go ahead and put those in. We'd love to kind of interact with you there as well. There is a hashtag marketing AI. You see it on the screen. So you can use that if you want to interact on Twitter. And then finally, the question everyone always has, will the deck be available? Yes, the deck and the on-demand webinar will be available within 24 hours. We will email the email you used to register for the event. We will send you details and link to quickly access both the deck and the on-demand webinar. So I'm going to end the poll there. We will again share those results in a little bit. And with that, I want to introduce you to our speakers. So Amy Heidersbach is the Chief Marketing Officer for Persado, where she oversees global marketing efforts. She has made a career out of leading transformational B2B and B2C marketing and brand initiatives. With a commitment to full stack integrated marketing, Amy has a 20+ year track record of success building authentic brands, launching innovative products, creating categories, and scaling businesses in a variety of industries. Amy will be presenting some exclusive insights from Persado's recent State of AI and Creativity study. Amy, thank you for being with us and being such a valued partner of Marketing AI Institute. Tell us a little bit about Persado. What is it? What does the organization do?
Paul, thank you. We are such fans of MAII, and this is definitely the highlight of my week. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. Persado's been around for a little over 8 years, and we have built the largest language knowledge base on the planet. We consider ourselves an AI content generation and decisioning platform. And we'll get to the decisioning part. We kind of started talking a little bit about it in the pre-call. But we really help deliver predictive, personalized content. And so predictive we'll also get to, I know, in this conversation, but personalized is becoming more and more important and accessible at the individual and user level. And as a career marketer, that's really exciting to me. That one-to-one marketing has been kind of the elusive thing I've been chasing for almost 3 decades. And what it does, what Persado does for Fortune 1000 companies is really deliver new sources of value, new ways to engage customers and prospects in the moment with the language that really motivates them and can adapt and change as their macro world changes, as the channel selection changes. So really excited to be here. I'm kind of still new to Persado, but loving it.
Yeah, and language generation, and we will get into all of this, but language generation is a key element, obviously, of what artificial intelligence enables. And there's just been massive advancements in the ability for machines to generate language and personalize language in the last 5 years even. We already had a comment about artificial general intelligence. Like, I know there's some people on this webinar who have some advanced understanding of language generation capabilities. So yeah,
it really is the last mile.
Yeah.
We've made all of these investments. If you can't turn it into a message that resonates at an individual level and know how that changes over time, those investments aren't working as hard for us as we need them to.
Well, really looking forward to the conversation and some of the insights from the recent study. And then our guest speaker today is Jay Pattisall. He is Forrester's expert on creative media, marketing, and in-house agencies, helping CMOs and business leaders make sense of the complex and ever-changing services landscape surrounding advertising, marketing, and consumer engagement. Jay's research explores the future of the agency sector, in-housing, media, and creativity. He's going to be sharing findings, insights, and recommendations from a new Forrester report titled "Intelligent Creativity Energizes Marketing Productivity." Jay, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Forrester and your work there.
Thanks, Paul. It's good to be here. And hello to everybody out in the in webinar world. Thanks for joining us today. If anybody's unfamiliar with Forrester, we're a technology and business research company, and we help business leaders and technology leaders craft vision, strategy, and execution that is customer obsessed or customer centric, all with the idea towards driving growth. And as my work at Forrester specifically as the agency analyst and a former agency strategist before Forrester, my role is to help our clients understand the capabilities, the offerings, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, if you will, of agencies and service providers. And then to help our clients on the other side of it, the agency clients themselves, understand the need of the marketers. And we do this through lots of research with thousands of consumers and thousands of business leaders, a lot of unique partnerships, a lot of qualitative research. And it just puts us at a place where we're kind of sitting at the nexus, if you will, of marketing and technology and media and the world of agencies, and bring that perspective, objectively to the marketplace.
Fantastic. I'm just so grateful that you're able to join us today, both of you. I'm really looking forward to this. Like Amy's kind of been the highlight of my month, is like prepping for this, and it's just such a fascinating area. And more than anything, the key for us is we want this to be a conversation. We want to start the discussion really, or accelerate the discussion around AI and creativity. If you're on this webinar, you're likely a marketer. You may also be a creative professional yourself. You certainly work with creatives, or you may lead a team of creatives. So we'd love your perspective. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. The reality for all of us is the future is going to look very different. We all have concerns. We all have fears. There are unknowns, but we're also, most likely, all of us are pretty excited about the possibility. But we don't really know what it's going to look like. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Jay present some findings. Amy's going to present. And like I said at the beginning, we're going to leave lots of time at the end for conversation and questions. So use the Q&A. Go ahead and put questions in at any point there. Use the chat if you need to reach out to us. And before I turn it over to Jay, I want to take 2 minutes and tell you about Marketing AI Institute for those who aren't familiar. So I started the Institute in 2016 just as a side project to see if other people cared about AI. So we just started a blog. Me and Mike put on my team. We just started writing about AI. Fast forward to now, and there's tens of thousands of people subscribed, and we found out that other people cared. But our thing was, no one was talking about it in 2015, 2016 that wasn't a machine learning engineer or a tech geek. And I couldn't make any sense of it. Like, we didn't get what AI actually was and what it could do. So we just sort of went on self-discovery. And so Part of the way we try and help people understand and apply AI is through this monthly webinar series. There's just free webinar every month. You can go to the bit.ly link there at the bottom. And again, we'll send all this information at the end. There's about a dozen on-demand webinars available from some incredible experts and companies in the industry. And what we've really seen is since, Mike and I just started putting up those first posts with nobody else listening, we found a community. We found other people who want to understand this stuff and want to apply it. And so, tens of thousands of people every month come to the site. 23,000 people subscribe to the newsletter and the different assets we offer. We have an international conference, which obviously, like everybody else, went on pause for a year. But in 2019, we had 300 people from 12 countries come to the first one. And we have an online education platform that people can join. And at the end of the day, our belief is this is going to change everything. Every study you look at, from McKinsey to Deloitte to Forrester to Gartner, like everybody agrees, trillions. It's just massive. But the reality is most of us marketers don't really know what in the world it actually is or how to apply it. And so we're trying to find those first pilot use cases, or we're trying to find ways to solve problems more efficiently. And that's really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do. We're just trying to advance this conversation. And so I always find it really important to start the discussion with, well, what is it? It's because everybody, and we've, again, almost 800 people registered. There's a pretty good chance that some people feel very passionately about what they think AI is, and not everybody agrees. And so I always like to start off the conversation. And Jay, I'm going to turn it to you first. How do you think about what AI is? How does Forrester define artificial intelligence?
And hey, Paul, I just had a thought. Like, let's have our attendees put their definitions in the chat as we're talking about it.
Definitely throw it in the chat. I would love to see those. It's a great thought, Amy.
Well, it's quite a mystery when you look out across the client world. We think of AI as from our experiences with movies and popular culture. Terminator, HAL. But the fact of the matter is that AI is in its simplest form has been part of our lives. For a number of years, as simple as recommendation engines on online platforms, and we kind of think of it kind of loosely in three buckets, or at least I do, which is the more basic forms of AI are robotics processing automation, where it's just automating simple tasks, repetitive tasks. And then you move into the world of machine learning, where the machines are applying insights and deriving insights based upon data. And that's really when I think it starts leaving the world of automation and into true artificial intelligence, when the data is involved. And data is part of the training, if you will, the algorithm. And then the more advanced forms, I think, get really into deeper network situations where you've got intelligent software and intelligent machines that are harnessing and capturing data and using it to process and make determinations. So I would kind of think about it in those three areas.
How about Amy, yourself and Persado?
Yeah, similar, but I think we kind of really focus on the bottoms up from what Jay described, the learning the language of a brand, the language of a customer strategy at any one of the customers we partner with. And, really getting the machine to be smart in order to be predictive, in order to be personalized, is where we spend a lot of our time. And then, of course, connecting into automated processes is the generation and delivery. But the decisioning, I think, is what's really interesting about what Persado does from a language and, AI content perspective.
Yeah, that, for us, and again, I've struggled with this all these years of like, what is it? And what we've come to define AI is just the science of making machines smart. Because if you're new to AI world, like the machine knows nothing. Like it's not capable of doing what we do as humans. And so to Jay's point, the first level, and obviously a lot of times the first pilot use case is intelligent automation of some task. That is the starting point for many people. But AI is able to do human-like things at scale, like almost superpowers. And those generally fall in kind of the language and vision, and then into the decisioning and prediction buckets. And that's really what we're focusing on today, is that language and into the creativity side. And so I just put the results up. So we had, can AI be creative, or does creativity remain uniquely human? 53% said yes, AI can be creative, which is pretty intriguing. 25% no, it only enhances creativity, and 25% aren't sure. And I think that makes sense. And we've got a ton of great actually ideas here on, what is it? We've already got probably 20 to 30 definitions of AI here in the chat. So I'll come back to that maybe later. I'm going to stop sharing the results, and let's go ahead and get into this. Jay, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll kind of work the slides for you as we're going here, but why don't you go ahead and take it over?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so what I'm going to talk to us today about is a piece of research that we completed called the Intelligent Creativity. Is the shorthand of it, and how it's really about a human machine partnership. And what I hope you'll get from this is a better understanding of how that partnership works, and how to action some of that some of our recommendations for achieving the human machine creative team. And so, going on to the next slide, the poll results are really interesting, Paul and Amy, in that it shows, maybe with this audience, a few more believers, if you will, than in general population, but it still illustrates a bit of a divide, and that divide, if you will, really is a good starting place just for the recognition that technology and marketing have always had this somewhat contentious relationship, particularly if you pull it even further to say technology and creativity definitely have a contentious relationship. And what makes me think to illustrate that is a scene from Mad Men, the popular television series about advertising in New York in the 1960s. And the character Don Draper, in one episode, arrives at work, comes up the elevator into the lobby of his building, and there is the agency's first computer that was purchased to help with their media planning business, and it's it's standing there, being moved into the offices, very kind of looming, and a large machine, certainly compared to any of the technology that we have today. And Don Draper just simply looks at it and kind of rolls his eyes and dismisses it and keeps walking on, carrying on his morning. And it's very dismissive, and to a degree, I think it perfectly sums up the relationship of creativity and technology. But the reality is that technology and the technology revolution inside the agency is just well underway, despite Don Draper's dismissal. 60% of CMOs tell us that they plan to increase their MarTech and their ad tech spending coming into 21. And agencies themselves have spent billions of dollars for technology and data assets. And so the AI revolution in many respects has arrived to the agency world, such to the extent that, as we're looking at this slide, technology is now an integral part of the agency selection, in addition to culture and capabilities and costs. Clients need to be asking themselves, how is the agency's technology strategy aligning with my needs? And that's very much rooted in the ability to use AI and automation. And, like I said, the wave has arrived. Creative and digital and media agencies are now trying to understand, the full potential, the full possibilities, even the drawbacks of some of the technology that we talked about just a moment ago, whether it's machine learning or robotics processing, automation, or intelligent software. And it's radically changing the way that agencies work, to the extent that data sciences is now really replacing consumer insight, or what was formerly consumer insight is now being powered by data sciences and that technology. It's propelling the agency's ability and marketing overall, their ability to produce volumes of content and drive the velocity of content through production. It's starting to have an appreciable amount of impact in the back operations of agencies. It has tremendous impact in media planning and media buying with audience activation technology and audience activation platforms. And we're starting to see more evidence of how the technology can play a role in the creative process, more so in the back end of the creative process, around the production and the bringing to life, the iterations or the different assets, and manipulating and developing and producing assets, but also potentially in the creative concepting part of it. So we wanted to understand this impact, if you will, of all this technology across the agency. And if we go to the next slide, what we'll see here is some output of some research that we did. And we did this research to understand the shifts of the agency workforce and to help CMOs and help agency executives understand how to make their investments across talent, their workforce, and the technology and the tools. So we created 4 composite organizations: a large creative, large media, and a small creative and a small media organization. I think you're seeing the creative version of that of this in this particular chart. And using data, we broke these 4 composite organizations down into their job categories and their job departments, and then looked at each job within those departments. So it was about 90 different roles. We were using 4A's data, we were using Oxford data, we were using some of our own data, and using the Bureau of Labor Statistics data. And we essentially created a model to help understand the impact of AI and automation across the workforce, and to give us kind of a forecast for what 2023 all the way through to 2030 would look like. And the headline is, it's straightforward here, that AI and intelligent software will automate about 11% of agency jobs by 2023. And initially we thought, maybe that's a bit low. Maybe we need to recheck our numbers. But as we got deeper into this, what we realized is that of course it's a progression this way, because it's tasks. It's not taking wholesale jobs away. It's helping to replace, if you will, some of the individual tasks that are done by all kinds of departments. I mean, the large creative agency, the biggest impact is in production, because of the capacity to take some of the rote and repeatable tasks in the production of content and creative. You can also see it in finance. Because again, lots of repeatable, predictable jobs that and tasks that happen there. So it is a prediction that helps us understand that this is a very real thing, and in the next year or so, there'll be a pretty substantial amount of automation inside the agencies. And as we march through the rest of the decade, that will grow. The number's more like 20%. But it raises some really interesting issues. And, because after all, if you think about it, this industry is built off of a very intuitive style of creation, a very intuitive style of advertising. The great Leo Burnett said that the work of an advertising agency is warmly and immediately human. It deals with human needs and human wants and dreams and hopes, and that its products cannot be turned out by an assembly line. And that really kind of underscores the tension here between the model that I just showed you and the heritage and the belief of this creative industry. So if you go to the next slide, what you see is the tension between the art and the science of marketing. It's always kind of an ever-present thing, but today the rise of AI and intelligent automation takes that tension to a new height, really. And the scale, the accuracy of AI and automation stand, in a little bit of a contrast and in opposition to the kind of craft approach of creating advertising and creating communication. And it creates this sense of absolutism. And on one side, and this again, Paul, I think it goes back to our, the poll results, because you can kind of, again, you can see that bifurcation, a little bit of the absolutism in our initial poll data, where one group, firmly believes that, from a technological standpoint, that humans are certainly benefactors to the science and the scale of machines, and that machines can also create too. But the intuitive absolutism is, suggests that machines can in no way compete with human tastes or ingenuity and intuition. But I would argue that they're both wrong. And the research actually demonstrates that they're both wrong, and that the industry needs to move away from this absolutism as represented here and across my research, and march more towards a sense of the combination of the two. And so a better vision of the industry, not one of incompatibility or competition, but is one of a combination of human creativity, machine accuracy, not an either or solution, but rather one that you can kind of put together and get the best of both worlds. And if you go to the next slide, we have defined this proposition as intelligent creativity, the process of creative problem solving, in which teams of creators and strategists concept, design, produce, and activate business solutions with the assistance of AI, intelligent automation, and data. And when you do this, when you kind of achieve this new form of creativity, you've done just that. You've taken what is appropriately human and uniquely human, and given it the scale and the capacity to have even more impact and not be threatened. So how do we do this? The creative process, as we in the marketing industry understand it, was really developed in 1926 by a professor of psychology named Graham Wallas at the London School of Economics. Oddly, it's psychology at the London School of Economics, but I guess that just shows the diversity of the time, right? But what Wallas, developed these initial 4 stages that you can see on the left-hand side of the page. At the time, they didn't even call it creativity or a creative process. They called it the art of thought. And the book that he wrote about it was called The Art of Thought. And it's about, the preparation, preparing the mind, incubation, sitting with and internalizing the problem, illumination, developing a solution based upon all the work that you've done, and verification, verifying and implementing your solution out into the marketplace. And that aligns really closely with how we do marketing. We have a discovery phase, we have an ideation phase, we have a production and an activation phase. And I'm not suggesting that any of that change, whether it be Wallas's expression of it or today's marketing process for developing business solutions and products and experiences. What I am suggesting is it can be done with machines. not in replacement of, but in addition to, so that when you're preparing to work on a problem in your discovery phase, there are a number of opportunities where technology can help surface insights and can help diagnose the situation, where machines can provide very repetitive and quick, fast understanding of the category and the nuances, and some of the details around audiences that can help set objectives. And the same can be said for the creative process. It can't replace the creative intuition and the ability to link concepts that are subjective and interesting and full of context, but it can help make associations and make patterns and make suggestions, as well as help scale these ideas in a new form of verification, where you're using data and technology to scale production and scale activation. And there's some really distinct benefits by doing this. When you're able to use machines in this way, you're able to help and creativity. When these combine together, you can create differentiation and heighten that differentiation for your brands. Right now, we lean really heavily as an industry into technology, and almost in a lazy way, to the extent that like every airline app pretty much does the same thing. It is your boarding pass. It allows you to manage your travel, and you scan it, to gain access either through TSA or whatnot. You've all done it 1,000 times, right? And we'll hopefully do it again soon. But have you ever been confused and brought up the wrong app for the wrong flight? Yeah, because they look alike, and they ostensibly, you can't distinguish between one and the other. Well, the machine plus the creativity can help you do that. And Aeromexico, for example, developed an e-commerce solution and an app solution where they brought a little humanity to the airline proposition, and they did so by changing the destination, the origination and the destination from cities to be about people. One person is visiting another person, and it was and the people were named in the app and named in the manifest, and it was shareable across social, and it was a way to differentiate their brand and use technology and creativity in combination to do that. And so another benefit is that you can delight customers by better meeting their emotional needs. Adidas figured that out at Complexicon, which is a sneaker enthusiast show, and their problem was that the fans were so competitive over getting the limited release shoes that there would be a lot of tension, and fights would break out in lines as people were waiting to get their pair. So they used augmented reality, where you could scan a code, make a purchase, and then go pick up your shoes in a locker that's uniquely opened by your mobile device. The people and the technology combined to create a brand experience that literally diffuse the tension and the arguments at these events. And I think the last benefit that we could talk about is just how employers are able to empower their employees to do more fulfilling work. When the machines are doing the rote, repetitive tasks like time sheets, or making orders for insertions, or helping with taxonomy and reconciliation of billing, and so on and so forth across media operations, or across production, or across billing, then you're freeing up people to be more strategic. And you're freeing up people to be more creative. So there's some really clear benefits from this. And the way that we would achieve this is essentially, this slide is we've got to reinvent the way that we do creative. We have to reinvent the concept of creativity to be, again, expressly human, but just powered by machines. So how do you do that? Well, first, place some emotion in the code. I actually saw earlier when we were taking definitions of AI, someone had written something to the effect of code that is alive. I think it was Danielle. Great, interesting idea about what AI is. Code that's alive, but we need to put the emotion in the code. We need to digitally express the values of the brand. And use the technology to help us heighten and intensify that. We need to infuse the brand promise inside the digital execution. Another way is that we need to meet the emotional needs, like the Adidas example shows us. We need to apply design across every touch point so that what we have are not only rationally helpful and handy and useful concepts, but also very gratifying and deeply appreciated concepts that, that again, put the emotion into the equation. And we need to scale this across all of our teams, and so insulate the organization and protect the culture of creativity. We do this because as machines come in, they feel a little threatening. Back to the Don Draper example, it's not about being dismissive. It's not about throwing our shoes into the machines to clog it, but we need to protect the creative culture that's there and insulate it so that we can help set the vision for bringing more technology into the equation and help advance the creative process. We need to develop platforms to help facilitate that, and specifically the talent platforms that can help link different groups, different expertise, different knowledge together. That internal use of technology will help us reinvent and scale technology, reinvent creativity to scale technology. And then the last piece is the human machine creative team. The very concept is the industry needs to open itself up and broaden itself to be willing to include another member of the creative team, that is the data, the insight, and the executional prowess that comes from technology. Now, I think the one thing that I'll leave us with, just to temper the whole issue, is that again, it is not about replacing, it is not about substituting, it's not about ruining, or it's not about changing. It's about evolving. It's about becoming better and using the tools that are at our disposal. And that's what we mean by reinvent creativity. And intelligent creativity is the path to do that with.
That's a great place to end it, I think, Jay. I mean, we're going to turn it over to Amy here in a second to give some complimentary findings from their own report and share. But again, just a reminder, go ahead and start putting questions in. The chat's been really active. There's lots of activity in there. So we'll be monitoring that. If you have things specific for Jay, go ahead and put them in the Q&A. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Amy and let her share some of the findings from Persado's recent study on AI and creativity. And then we're going to go ahead and start answering questions. So cue those up. All right,
so
Amy,
I'm going to run through this really quickly in favor of some Q&A time, but we are debuting the findings today, not all of them, kind of a subset of them. A lot of rich data here in our study that we just fielded, and I'm thrilled to start talking about it with this wonderful community. So really, why now? If you go forward, well, the illustrious Jay Pattisall set the great context for this study, this vision piece. And it's really a lot of what he was just talking about, embracing a more technological, accurate, scalable process of developing creative with humans and machines. And it's all about, increasing the way we solve our business and our brand problems. We're under such pressure as marketers and creative communities to drive growth, that this is a way we can do it with less guesswork and more certainty. So just a bit on the survey on the next slide. We were in the field in January and February. We talked with over 400 senior marketing leaders, 2/3 of which were at the C-level and VP roles. We definitely took a broad approach to industries, financial services, retail and e-commerce, insurance, telco, technology, media, travel and hospitality, and public sector. I know we have some public sector folks who registered and are attending. Think of how much creative output, particularly now trying to get, messages that inspire action in this COVID environment that are federal, state, and local governments and the agencies that support them are sending. So we concentrated on the US and EU markets. And what we came up with was a first in an annual study that we'll do. And here are some of the findings. I've got 3 quickly to share. When it comes to creative impact, as marketers, there's a wide gap between our belief and our ability to make creative accountable. Let's look at the data. So this is a first-time study. I went back and looked at a similar question that Nielsen fielded with marketing leaders 2 years ago. 7 in 10 of us didn't believe in our creatives' ability to drive results. And that in 2 years, 3 years has flipped. Now we feel confident or very confident in our creatives' ability to drive results. So belief, but if you go to what's next, we need to see the proof. The rest of our marketing mix now has proof attached to it, increasingly so. But creative remains this place, content, design, and in general, the creative process, needs to be more accountable and data-driven. So the problem here that I think, a lot of us are trying to wrestle with is we're still just trying to link creative to direct outcomes, much less, complex ones. Almost 2/3 of our responders reported little to no or just basic A/B testing. And so this remains a challenge in our operational day-to-day lives as marketers and creative people. So we have belief, we need accountability, and we're still struggling to connect to outcomes with certainty, right? So the second finding in the study is we are starting to apply AI to marketing programs, including creative and content programs, and those are increasingly priority areas. In the study, we also see that these investments are starting to pay off with revenue lift. So 57% of us are currently using AI-based customer insights to inform our marketing efforts, who our customers are, what their behaviors and attitudes are, what their next best actions could be, and also what language is going to connect with them and how is that changing. So we're investing. If you click forward, we're using a significant portion of that investment to improve creative and content. So there are some real early adopters that are still investing primarily in analytics and business intelligence, including customer intelligence. We're still gathering the data and the ability to assemble that data in CDPs and our CRMs, et cetera. But creative direction and content generation in our study 2 months ago was the second highest way that we are saying we're going to deploy these AI investments.
I will just add real quick, Amy, everybody always wants to look at very practical use cases, especially if you're brand new to it. And I think this slide represents some very specific applications that if you do any of these things as a marketer, AI is capable of enhancing what you're doing today. The technology exists for all of these things.
100%. And, we've been, using AI and machines to offer, different products at price levels or, different loyalty programs, but seeing it come that last mile into the creative process is really exciting from mine and certainly Persado's point of view. Those of us using AI in our marketing programs are seeing significant lift, right? Under pressure to drive growth. And 76% of the leaders that we surveyed report an average, and it's split 38 and 38%, 10 to 30% revenue lift or 30 to 70% revenue lift. That's growth we'll all take every day, right? And it's very consistent with what our customers on the Persado platform see. In fact, some of our customers who've been working with us for years, feeding the machine, helping it learn, helping it decision, and then delivering that last mile creative are seeing well above 150% revenue lift, conversion and revenue lift. That's really exciting. So finally, our AI investments in AI and creativity are now accelerating. So some of us are already investing, but we're seeing that going into 2021, it's accelerating. You mentioned this as well, Jay, in some of the research you've been conducting. And in part, one of the accelerants is this need to meet the personalization imperative, to connect with the user at an individual level. And now technology is really enabling us to do that at scale. So, almost 8 in 10 of us are planning to invest in AI technology this year. And as we do so, on the next slide, content generation and design in our survey was the top priority investment area. Again, not exclusively. This was a select any and all that apply. But look at how fast not only our belief, but our dollars are falling into this area of the marketing suite. And finally, personalization is really a driver of, at least from our perspective, why this is happening. We are needing to respond every day to deliver more personalized content and experiences. And if the last 13 months taught us anything at Persado, it's that how people responded to language changed dramatically in COVID times. We saw a shift in our wheel of emotion, we call it, where we map the emotional nature of language to effectiveness and certainty of creative, shift from achievement-based messages to the opposite side of the wheel, safety and security. And it's shifting back, and by the way, language in different channels, needs to show up differently. So this is a really exciting time. We are on the precipice of true one-to-one marketing at the individual user level. And that last mile of creativity is one we're believing in and investing in.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm back. So
that is like the mantra of the last 13 months, Paul.
No, it's good. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. We're just going to go to the video. So questions, go ahead and start. We already have some questions. That's fantastic. I want to ask one question to get us started. So everybody else has kind of come up with theirs. And I definitely want to get to Scott's question. It's a perfect question to start with. But I do want to ask you, why now? From Amy, your perspective, Persado, Jay, your perspective, Forrester, AI isn't new. If you're new to AI, it's not new to you. It's been around since the 1950s. It just had its, cold winter for decades where it sort of went out of style. But the reality is the last 10 years has seen more innovation in AI than we had in the previous 50 or 60. So why now is this technology that's been around for 90 years, if I did my math, 70 years, why is it now changing our roles as marketers? What has happened?
Yeah, I think the investments in data, the investments in voice of customer, the investments in digital transformation, are now coming to fruition. But the pressure that's on us is now, how are we going to action against it to get the value out of it? So from our perspective, more data points, more channels, more touch points with the customer than the human brain can analyze and action on its own. When we combine human ingenuity and creativity with, machine accuracy, repeatability, decisioning, this is how we meet the market. This is how we grow our businesses and get the most out of those investments in CDPs, CRMs, all the things, right?
Jay, do you have any perspective on the why now question?
I agree with Amy that the technology is to an extent risen to the occasion to deal with an acceleration in the pace of culture and the pace of content and the amount of data. In addition to that, I think it's appropriate to acknowledge that the marketing industry broadly and the agency industry specifically had a fairly brutal 2020 when it comes to the workforce. For agencies, we had predicted, and I think this has pretty much come to fruition, that about 50,000 agency jobs were either temporarily or permanently lost due to the pandemic. And so this is, in part, it's a mechanism for helping to fill a talent void, as service providers are thinking about the options of managing talent and how to do so, whether remotely or in person. There's the onshore, nearshore, offshore, and automation are among those options. And so I think that's definitely one of the reasons. And then the other that comes to mind is that, for 10 years, we've been very much kind of in a systems integration set mode, if you will, in that it's all about, connecting, using technology to connect experiences or connect the pipes or connect the networks together. And that we are now needing to move out of that phase that has created a lot of standardization, but a lot of sameness, into more of a setting of differentiation. And so the technology that can help simultaneously, do some of the lower level repeatable tasks and help us free up time to think about making brands matter again and making experiences delightful, in addition to being just helpful, is an appropriate use for this type of technology.
That is such a great point, Jay. And we hear this a lot. Isn't it going to create a sameness? Isn't technology going to create a sameness in our creative, especially among our customers who know that one of their competitors is also using Persado? But we really believe that what brands are bringing today is their unique voice and value proposition, their unique product and offering strategy, their unique view on who their customers are and how they understand those customers. And what our platform enables them to do is say all of that, without Persado, shows you and Paul in the same segment. But if we can understand your humanity, right, and how you respond to messages, and let's assume that those two ways are different. Now we can identify that at an individual level and message to it, and adapt when things like COVID happen and we need to change that language in order to meet you in the moment you are, right? So, one of our Chase clients said it best: machine learning is the path to more humanity in marketing. And it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation. That's a little counterintuitive. Yeah. At least it has been in the past, but I think we're evolving, not to have it be so absolute as you described, Jay, and really bring these amazing human capabilities and machine capabilities together.
And we've got some great questions. So we only have about 6 minutes left. So I'm going to try and rapid fire these if this rapid fire round works for people. So the first one, and I get this all the time. So I'm new to this. This is Scott's question. I'm new to this. What are the real life examples? Like, how do I make sense of this? The way we always tell people is you have to think about use cases. You have to think about the things you do every day and find AI to do them. So I'll tell you, Mike on our team, if you could drop AI score for marketers link in there. We have a tool that walks you through 49 different use cases. Some of those are things Persado would actually enable you to do, but they're specific tasks that humans do that AI can enhance. So in like 30 seconds, Amy, give us like 5 very specific things Persado enables, like headline writing, subject, like just so they can understand like these super tangible task-based things that the Persado platform enables through AI.
Sure. I mean, how you craft a message on demand to an individual in any channel. So it can be social, it can be web, your own website, it can be an email. Certainly that remains one of our largest communications channels. It can be an IVR. It can be a broadcast ad. And just imagine in our own experiences, how we live our lives, and when we are consuming these messages, how our receptors change, how our attitudes change. So, we've had a lot of customers say, if it were left up to the, marketing leadership team to determine what message we should send to Paul or Amy or Jay or Harold or, Catriona, some of the folks on the call here, we would have gotten it wrong. So it can help us learn and be more precise and accurate, take the guesswork out of what we do, and allow us to create new hypotheses, new ideas, and test them rapidly.
A great example, if you want to see AI at work, you can actually go to the Persado homepage. I was looking at this yesterday, and they show you a before and after of their AI applied to an email. And what it's doing is it's actually using what's called natural language understanding and generation to understand the words in the email now, and then generate alternate versions that it predicts will have a greater impact on the desired outcome, which is someone clicking and buying, or whatever the outcome may be. That's AI at work. And as Amy said, it can be in ads, it can be in emails, it can be in text messages. It can enhance the language the creative person would create. So that's a quick one. Another one that we get all the time. This all sounds great. I don't work at an enterprise, Fortune 500. How do I use it as a small business? I will tell you, I own an agency in addition to owning the Institute. We are a small business with about 15 employees. We use over a dozen AI tools every day to do what we do. I love Jay's slide about the automation of the agency world. We have been under the assumption for the last couple of years that within 5 years, 80% of the tasks that we do every day will be intelligently automated to some degree, whether that's media buying or predicting the performance of Facebook ads or writing headlines or whatever it is. We just basically have this list of all these things that we know machines will be capable of doing or already are. And as a small business, you can go get some of these tools for, $30 a month, $100 a month. You can try them. But if you're a bigger enterprise, then yeah, you're working with bigger platform companies that are doing massive, major solutions based on, saying proprietary data. But that's not every solution. There's literally hundreds of applications of AI in marketing. You just have to find the thing you need and go find a solution for it. So I don't know if either of you have a quick perspective on that. It's just such a common question we get.
I think that's a great answer. Yeah.
No, we're just not going to get, there's so many great questions here. What we'll do is
we knew that this was more than an hour-long conversation.
Yeah, I know. There's so
I think we should have a follow-up.
I think we can do that. And maybe what we'll do is we'll answer some of these too in a blog post and send that to everybody. Because there's questions about narrow AI versus general AI, which I can't answer in 2 minutes. Natural language algorithms applied to website forms. Just great questions. So this is exactly what we were hoping for. So I'm going to just kind of stop here because I can't get to any of these probably in 2 minutes for us. But again, Amy and Jay, thank you so much. And to the hundreds of people who registered and attended and who may be watching this on demand, thank you. Be a part of this conversation. We're all just still figuring this out. If you're brand new to this, you're not too late. You're just learning. Follow Jay, follow Amy and Persado. Stay in tune with everybody. So any final words, Amy, from you?
I love being a marketer for some of these very reasons. Our ability to improve upon, optimize, learn, communicate with this, share ideas with this community is phenomenal. And it's never the same year twice, hardly ever the same day twice. And this horizon of AI and creativity, especially thinking about how we can meet individuals much more impactfully, is like kid in a candy store to me. And I really want to continue having this conversation as a marketing community.
And Jay, I know you probably got a 1 o'clock, you got to bounce too. So 10 seconds, you got any final thoughts?
Run experiments, be inquisitive, be curious, be open-minded, be creative, protect creative, and use technology when it's appropriate.
I love it. That was the best 10-second summary I've seen of a webinar. All right. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody who attended. Thank you to Jay and Amy. And we will definitely keep this
Thanks,
conversation
everyone.
going. Bye, everybody.